What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Kofi Kingston, aka 1/3 of the New Day. You're not gonna say it with me, sir? Yeah, come on, you better participate. Let's try it again. 1/3 of the New Day, and you are watching The Young and the Wrestlers. Ha 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 ha.
Welcome to The Young and the Wrestlers, the Pop Culture's WWE podcast, where we deep dive into the soap opera nature of the WWE. Storylines, characters, their motivations, that is where we have our fun. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Betson, alongside...
I'm as unsatisfying as a Shane McMahon return. I'm Jem.
This is our Raw and SmackDown in review. It comes at you every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you want to join that wrestling conversation, head over to twitch.tv/thepopcultures, where you can watch us record this show live. And of course, you always support the show by going to your podcast service of choice, giving a 5-star rating, written review. And if you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment below. Love to hear from you. But of course, you can also support us financially at patreon.com/thepopcultures or our merchandise store, popcultures.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on it. Oh, Buddy's talking about Iceland as in like Mighty Ducks 2. They were the bad guys. I never saw the second one. I only saw the first one. And he also compliments your sweet Shane McMahon bird. How are you, Jem?
I'm good, man. I've had a really productive day, so I'm on a little bit of a high. How are you?
I'm well. And then before we even get into WWE this week, we got to talk.
Yes.
Talk and Chopper Mania.
Yeah. We got to talk
Holy
the talk.
Absolute crap. All right. Let's get into this. So, Talk and Chopper Mania, for those that don't know, Gallows and Anderson, they have a podcast called Talk and Shop. I have listened to the show. However, they announced like a couple weeks ago they're having Talk and Shop a Mania. It's their own backyard pay-per-view. And it was phenomenal.
Oh, it was great.
It was so good.
Oh, man.
So it had a bunch of people that you may or may not know, depending on your wrestling tenure or sort of who, you know, where you've been and what you've watched. We saw cameos from Heath Slater as Sting, but actually they pronounced it as Stang, which made me laugh really hard.
Stang.
Then we had formerly Kurt Hawkins. We had Teddy Long. Who else showed up?
Maria Kanellis.
Mike Kanellis, or Mike Bennett, sorry.
Mike Kanellis, yeah. Enzo Amore.
Yeah.
Who else?
A ton more.
Chavo Guerrero.
Chavo Guerrero on fire, the whole thing.
Oh no, my head on the chair. Oh no, it's padded. Oh, that's horrible.
Oh man.
The running commentary was hilarious.
It was on point. So yeah, they had this idea to throw this essentially a backyard wrestling pay-per-view where they've just got like a ring, literally a ring in the middle of a field, and it's just things happened, and it was weird, and it was
boneyard match.
And the main event was a boneyard match where they literally just take the living piss out of AJ Styles and Undertaker's boneyard match.
I love that there was no subtlety too. The glove was poking out of like somewhere and actually had AJ's
Uncle Alan.
on it.
I'm so sorry, Uncle Alan. I know you tried to save us. Yeah. It was awesome.
Kick you in the butthole.
Yeah, and like Anderson was clearly being AJ Styles. Gallows was clearly being The Undertaker. And like it had that right level of tongue in cheek. Where, you know, as the running commentary is they're wrestling, and he's like, I'm going to put you in the fire. He's like, oh, no, don't put me in the fire. It's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm just kidding. He's like, oh, that's cool. You know, it's just like...
I'm going to bury you. Don't bury me. Oh, man, you get my pants dirty.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was absolutely fantastic. And then even other things as well, like they had the social distance battle royale, which made me laugh really hard. Then...
that's so good.
Then there was a bag on a tree match, which is essentially a contract.
Oh yeah,
the ladder match.
Yeah, the briefcase on a branch match or whatever.
Yeah, and then there was so while they're doing these matches, So there's a match between a guy that looks like if Ric Flair like really enjoyed KFC. Like, it was brilliant.
Oh yeah. And then there was like the 3 Elvis Presleys.
Yeah, and you can tell that they recorded the match and then they do the commentary later, which makes sense because what I love in the edit, they're trying to like talk about this match, like, oh, I'm fucking bored of this match, let's do something else. So they change it to a different match, but because that match never gets resolved, it keeps going throughout the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So later on, like, they start this other match, and then you come back to find out that Ric Flair guy, the guy that's pretending to be Ric Flair, is still choke holding this guy just off to the side because the match never stopped. It's so dumb, and it's amazing. Absolute credit to Gallows and Anderson. Like, it was absolutely fantastic. So I did a watch party. I did it with friends of the show, Dash, Dylan, co-founder of Pop Culturist, and then the Mullet Show. The 4 of us watched it together, and there were belly laughs everywhere, and it was really it was a really good feeling, actually, to be able to sort of like genuinely just like deep laughs at something.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. It was so much friggin' fun. Like, especially like just some of the dumb shit they said, and they clearly just taking the piss, and the whole like the whole AEW thing with the Young Bucks.
Oh no, don't spoil that one. That's a lovely little back ender, but we won't touch upon that one. But overall, great. top to bottom, it was mint. Well worth like $22, like unquestionably, 100%.
Oh. It was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was very cool to sort of see, like, all these, like, because they had a bunch of people that are sort of been out of work, I guess, in between, like from being let go of WWE, and then just before they all go off to like Impact and the TNA and AEW, like they were just kind of there in around, which was great. Yeah. Like they're sitting there calling out Matt Cardona. He's like, he can't be here. They essentially like, he can't be here. He's with AEW now. He's not allowed to do this. And that's what I loved. It was just like, because in terms of that, like, which I think's a big part of Gallows and Anderson's characters is like, like they're just like, it's all shoot mostly. And even then some things are, because of the delivery, it's like that line, like, all right, what are they doing? Like, is it shoot? Is it like they just playing into their own kayfabe here?
Yeah,
absolutely loved it.
Oh, if anything, and it was great because like Carl Anderson at one point, it's like, I should have stayed in Japan. I know I made mistakes, rah rah rah, like just shit like that. Like they're just really hamming it all up. It was so great.
It was absolutely brilliant. So everyone, go check it out. It's on Fight TV. It's $20, $22, something like that. And
it's
you
fucking great.
It's so brilliant. Great. Like my favorite part, like one of my other favorite parts is when they're doing
It's what I always wanted to do as a kid.
Yeah, like, we could make it talking Pop and C Mania, like we could do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a moment where Gallows punches the hearse in the Boneyard match. He's like, oh fuck, that really hurt, man. That Undertaker's a son of a bitch. Oh, okay. It was fantastic.
I love it. He throws Gallows off and he's like, oh no, just like my career.
So good.
Oh, it was so dumb. Like, yeah, just ripping on that whole...
I'm going to bury you. No, don't bury me. I'm going to bury you. No, don't bury me.
And it's even funnier because they were fucking involved in that match. So that's what makes it the funniest part of all, was they were there and they were part of that and they were making jokes about that too.
And the best thing is, obviously, because they're still friends with AJ Styles, they're like ribbing on him hard and they don't mind, because he's Anderson is clearly just taking the piss out of AJ.
Oh yeah, they said something about him like, we know you tried to help us and that's why you changed shows and shit like that.
It's brilliant.
Oh, it was beautiful.
It's absolutely brilliant. And there's ribbing on Heyman as well, because we've come to learn that there's a bit of beef between the OC and Heyman. Which is a lot. But anyways, let's get into what this show is about. Talking Shopper Mania was absolutely fantastic. This, as I said, this is where we talk about our WWE TV in review. Let's get it started with SmackDown. Jem, you want to kick this bad boy off for us? What story caught your interest this week?
Look, on
Speaking of AJ Styles, though, I'm gonna pick it for you, Jem. Speaking of AJ Styles,
do it.
you have some rants to say. So AJ Styles did have his Intercontinental Championship match with Grand Metalik as the challenger.
Yes.
What do you reckon, Jem? Give it.
That's the only thing that can adequately express how I feel about this. What an absolute fucking shit show. And this is the reason that Lucha House Party should not and do not get airtime. They're fucking terrible. Terrible. So, oh god, the match was just a fucking dumpster fire. Like, there was this one thing where, like, AJ was supposed to catch Grand Metalik with his, like, legs around AJ's waist, and, like, Metalik just fucking missed by miles. Or AJ wasn't close enough, or I don't know what happened, but there was just, something just didn't connect there. And I was just like, that isn't even apples and oranges. That's apples in a Mack truck. Like, come on now. Like, it was a fucking dumpster fire. And, yeah, like, AJ... it was like the first match of the night, so it was the opening match, so thank God we got it over and done with quickly. AJ does tap out Grand Metalik, so he retains his title.
Which is to be expected. This is one of those things. You know, we look at, it's awesome that there has been an opportunity for a lower mid-card guy or even a low-card guy to get a shot at a title. But it's one of those things, like, as you said, like, we've seen Lucha House Party, and they suck as tag teams. Like, they not going to be any better as single competitors, and we saw that here.
And
as you mentioned,
last week.
They weren't.
It's hit and miss.
Yeah,
There's no consistency.
They weren't landing hits. They weren't landing blows. Like they were clearly rocked by having to be in the situation. They weren't doing well. It's not good. It's not good.
Lindsay Dorado was ringside. It wasn't great either. Like, you could tell, like, AJ was frustrated because he does end up attacking Lindsay Dorado at the end of it and hits him with a style clash, and you can just see, like, the entire time you could just see the frustration on AJ's face. Like, he knows, like, we know he's better than this. He knows he's better than this. And somebody else should have gotten that opportunity. 100%. Anybody else would have been better.
Like, the entire time, AJ's giving off his energy of, I should not be doing this. And he shouldn't be doing this. Like, he's like, exactly. I'm wasting my time. And you know what, AJ? You were wasting your time. What an absolute waste of his time. Completely. Unquestionably.
Yeah. Big old dumpster fire. Like, two big old thumbs down. Like, so Triple H dumping Randy.
Yeah, big old...
And just down. Old down. Was not happy with it.
Not good at all.
It was interesting how they opened the show too, though, because the format for opening the show was like back and forth. Like, first was Bailey with Sasha, like talking smack on Nikki Cross with Alexa Bliss, and then it was Big E talking smack on The Miz, who was with John Morrison, and he was talking smack back, and then Lacey versus Naomi, then obviously Grand Metalik and AJ Styles, and that led into the Firefly Funhouse, which then led into our first match.
So it was interesting. So having little piece to
interesting format,
having little piece to cameras, it was like little hype reels where it's like, all right, so you're taking on this, and like, all right, Big E. He's like, I'm Big E. I'm gonna fucking punch this person. Like, all right, cut, next person. And it was great. It was actually a really good little showcase to show what was happening over the night. Yeah. So for that reason, I really like it.
Got me interested to see what matches we were in.
The difficulty was
instead of just finding out during.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go on. I was just saying it was interesting to find out who was facing who throughout the night. So you could sort of like. I like the idea that I can make my own decisions on whether I'm going to watch or not. Like, it's like, you know what? I want to see Big E take on The Miz. I want to see what he can do on his own. Or, you know, didn't care too much about AJ and Lindsay. But, hey, like, Lacey and Naomi, bring it on. Like, little things like that.
The difficulty was because they did it with almost every match, it went long. It felt way too long. Yeah. Like, if they just pick it and they got highlights, or even if, you know... because something that AEW does, which I love, and it's so straightforward because their cards are all sort of pre-made, right? They're not as on the fly by the looks of it compared to WWE. Yeah. So at the start of the night, they're like, "Hi," and you know, like I'm what, you know, like this is Jim Ross and whatever, and these are the matches we have for you tonight, and they have that, and they have banners, and they have like a nice picture, and they can go bam, bam, bam. These are the matches. This is why it's happening. Thank you very much. Just kick it into it, and like that. because
it seems like they're trialing format.
Yeah, and like they're trying something here in order to sort of get you hooked for the rest of the show. Because, you know, I'll say it before and I'll say it again, 2 hours is the best fucking time. Like, any more than 2 hours is too much wrestling in one sit.
Yeah, because it makes you want more. It's like, you know, 3 hours is too much. 2 hours is like just enough, but you're still like, I'm looking forward to next week, not like, oh god, another 3 hours next week.
But yeah, but one thing I was, as I said, really excited to see, and you mentioned in that little list there, was Big E getting his first ever big singles match. So, for context, last week, 2 weeks ago at Extreme Rules, Kofi and Big E did lose the tag team championships to Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura, which was...
Who had a stupid exchange with the Lucha House.
Oh, we'll get to that. Actually, no, fuck it, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, Kofi gets put through 2 tables, gets injured, he's out for 6 weeks.
Yes. Kobe dos tables.
So he gets taken out for about the next 6 weeks. During an exchange last week, Kofi's like, look, Zave's out, I'm out, it's all you, dude. Don't wait 10 years, this is your time.
You have our blessing.
Be it. Put your meat on my meat, which I think is still funny.
Yeah. Watch last week's episode. We talked about it there.
So that sets it up for Big E essentially having a little singles run. So he kicks things off with a match against The Miz, and I fucking loved it.
So did I. I always forget that Miz is actually a really good fucking wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, he really is. And especially going up against somebody like Big E, somebody who's so big and such a heavy hitter, he really, Miz really held his own. Even with, John Morrison throwing in some sweet little parkour kicks off the steps and stuff like that. And eventually getting busted and getting booted out, which was glorious. It was great to see Big E just absolutely dominate, and he did end up taking the win by tapping Miz out to a muffler.
Yeah, he just kind of grabbed him over his neck and just hung him for a while.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that, but it must do something to the knee and calf.
Yeah, it's just on the back of the thigh of the shoulders of Big E. You're getting your leg cranked in, because it's if you're holding it and you're pushing on it in the right way and you're hanging, that's pulling on the muscle as well as while it's being pushed against, it's gonna suck. The physics of it are undetermined, but it looks painful. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And then at the end of the match, Big E's screaming at Corey Graves because he threw his shirt at the start of the match at Graves and it missed him. And Graves it missed me. You're gonna fail. And Big E's tell everybody I'm coming and I'm not stopping Graves. And I was like, you fucking tell Graves.
Well, as we know, the long running beef with Graves is spectacular.
Graves, yeah.
They just,
and it's funny because it runs into the podcasts as well.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
It's flawless. But it was fucking awesome to see Big E get that singles win. Absolutely beautiful, especially because it was a hard fight for him.
Yeah.
And it was a glorious match. It was actually really good.
So,
yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But yeah, then fantastic. We did have that little Shinsuke Nakamura backstage celebrating the Champions Lounge and Lucha House Party are party. And they're get out, losers.
The only I didn't feel it, but I felt that may have been a language barrier thing. So everyone in that little promo were not English as their first language. We've got Cesaro. I think what's funny with Cesaro, who's Swiss, Nakamura, who's Japanese, and the Lucha House Party, who speak Spanish. You know what I mean? So for them, it's there was a bit of stiltedness in their delivery, but I did kind of like it for that reason. But it still felt rough just because the cadence wasn't there.
I like the joke they made with the party blowers, and they were you blew it, and the fact that Cesaro was actually speaking Spanish and saying shit to the Lucha House Party, which was a bit of fun as well. But overall, honestly, it was really unnecessary and didn't need to happen. It was just hey, there's still champions here. Have a look.
So
don't forget about them.
So the big question here, Jem, we know, but we presume Big E is getting a match next week. He got a win, so he's pretty much lined up for a match next week. What are you thinking? Who are we looking at? What do you expect?
Guaranteed Morrison.
Oh, good call.
Guaranteed John Morrison.
Yeah.
Yeah. After what happened this week with The Miz, it's guaranteed that he'll be taking on John Morrison next week. It's a given.
Yeah. How do you think that will go?
Oh, he'll best it.
Oh yeah, of course he will.
I think it'll be a very similar situation where Miz will get busted, get kicked out, and so be it.
Yeah, so I'm in a similar boat. I do think, the Big E will come out the victor. I think because like their need, the Miz and Morrison's need to sort of be shifty and whatever is opens it up to some easy stuff for Big E to work around. So he knows there's going to be some sneakies. He can like attempt to get the ref to look over there and like try swing it how he can.
Yeah, exactly, which they did multiple times in this match, and that's how they work so well as a tag team. But like, it'll be really awesome to see Big E on his own best them as a tag team.
Yeah. And I think we discussed this last week as well. Our progression plans for Big E is mid-card. Give him the IC title.
Yeah, hell yeah. Like, have him go up against AJ Styles. That's something I want to see.
Yeah, I'd say, look, give him a couple of weeks, and I reckon we might see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it does have a little bit of build up to do. Like, we know there's some other people in that little fixture there. Like, we know that Matt Riddle is likely to get involved in the Intercontinental Championship picture after sort of having a little bit of a couple of matches with AJ Styles semi-recently. But it looks as if that may be on hold as he was having a bit of a bout with King Corbin. But then King Corbin also seems to be distracted by a different match here. So maybe that's not what we're going to see.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's tricky. You obviously mentioned King Corbin earlier in the night. Watching that match is the Intercontinental Championship match is Shorty G. He's watching on one of the monitors, and King Corbin comes up and he's like, you always get ignored and underestimated and overlooked. Sorry, bad choice of words. It's like, with the right help, that could be you facing AJ Styles. Mm-hmm. And Shorty G is like, what do you mean? Like, we're suddenly just best mates now when everything's like, water off a duck's back? And he's like, no, just hear me out. He's like, I everything I did to create a bigger version of you. I did to help you. Like, I was lighting a fire under you. And you deserve that title shot over somebody like, Matt Riddle, who comes in here without shoes and acting like a hippie, and you deserve that over him. You've been here longer, and you should prove to the WWE why you belong here and Matt Riddle doesn't. And the King's ransom is open to everyone, which you see Shorty G contemplate for a bit. And I was shocked to see Shorty G be like, especially after everything he went through with Corbin.
Yeah, so I that's the thing that I don't understand as well. Like, I understand that they clearly demonstrate that Gable is in it for the dollars, and I get that. Like, I wouldn't side with Baron Corbin if it wasn't for money. But it also seems really counterintuitive to that entire point of that feud that they had together. Like, I don't understand why Gable's involved here. I'm not feeling it. I'm hoping that more gets discussed, or at least some mentions from Gable about why he's made that choice. But for me, it's not lining up. I can't see the logic in it.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that alliances may end up starting to be built, and it may be like a team against a team. Because obviously, like, Jeff Hardy comes out and starts talking about like his win over Sheamus and overcoming his demons, and how he's not going to let his fans down anymore and stuff like that. And he, as he's speaking, King Corbin comes out, is like, stop whining, we're sick of hearing the same old story, blah blah blah. And then Drew Gulak comes running out and attacks King Corbin. And I think, like, for me, watching King Corbin badmouth Jeff Hardy, it seems to me like King Corbin's building his ransom. So Jeff Hardy might be like, well, like, screw you, I'm going to go help out Matt Riddle, and I'm going to keep an eye on him. And I feel like that's going to bring Jeff Hardy into this picture, because, what's he going to do next? He's beyond Sheamus now.
Well, because even on top of that as well, like, bringing Chad Gable back into the mix, upon Sheamus's return, first person he targeted was Chad Gable, right?
Was Chad Gable.
So with Sheamus coming out and literally saying that he was bested, he's done, I'm moving on, Jeff Hardy, he's a piece of shit, but I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think this is a tactical measure from Chad Gable just to avoid being in that potential target fire of Sheamus? Because Sheamus is, as he said himself, the entire roster is on notice. Anyone's up for it. So Do you think Gable's just playing safe here and hiding away?
Possibly. I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, we saw what Sheamus is capable of. I doubt Shorty G wants to go through that. But yeah, in saying that, who knows what's going to happen with Sheamus? But yeah, Jeff Hardy's clearly moving into something. Like, there's no hints of it. It's just, I guess, a suspicion I have. Because as King Corbin's interrupting Jeff Hardy, Drew Gulak comes out and attacks King Corbin because they have a match next. And short match, Riddle comes out and interrupts. Corbin gets rolled up, but he kicks out and smacks an end of days on Drew Gulak and gets the win. And then, Matt Riddle comes flying in and just starts attacking. And then out of nowhere, Shorty G comes in and just drops this, like, rolling fucking suplex thing on Jeff.
That was a solid plex.
Matt Riddle. Oh, that was mad. He did great. But then, you could tell, like, as King Corbin and Shorty G were walking away, they didn't touch each other or anything, but Shorty G just did this and Corbin did the same thing. So you can tell that Shorty G's in it for the money. He's very clearly in it for the money and no other personal gain whatsoever.
It just seems counterintuitive to what Gable's been working on. So,
exactly it. For so long, he's been like, no, and it's like, little guy's got to get up somehow. Maybe this is it.
Yeah, maybe he's got to have his shot. But speaking of someone having their shot and quote deserving better, we saw a continuation of last week with Lacey Evans and Naomi. So Lacey Evans, as we discussed last week, has returned. As we learned, Lacey Evans has returned to her more bitchy persona, which is understandable, of course.
Yeah, nasties.
And one thing I also noticed, they removed the sassy from her name. She's just the Southern Belle now.
Southern Belle. Yeah, interesting. I didn't notice that. I'll keep an eye on that next time. Look, she obviously comes out and says a little bit of like, hashtag Naomi deserves better. I'll show how much better she deserves when I beat her ass or something. I don't know. I prefer Lacey as a face as a heel, so I'm kind of really off all of this. But like, don't get me wrong, it was a killer match. Like Lacey using, because I didn't see the match that they'd had previously that Naomi had lost, but it's very tactical of Lacey to be using Naomi's hair against her. So at one point, she does stash, she shoves Naomi's hair under the step to try and get a count out, which is like, that's smart. I've never, ever in my entire life, I don't think I've ever seen that in the WWE. That was nifty.
I feel I've seen it before, but I couldn't tell you where. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen people put people's arms and shit in it, but that was super nifty. But yeah, ultimately, finally, Naomi got the win, which was awesome.
Is this the end of this, do you reckon?
Yeah.
Do you think we'll see some more?
Hey?
Do you think that we'll see some more Lacey and Naomi?
Ooh, well, they're 1-for-1 now, so they're going to have a decider. So that's just the way it is. But yeah, obviously Lacey's super, super pissed about the roll-up and she's yelling at Corey Graves and she snatches her handbag off him give, me that back, you nasty. And he's like, I'll start a hashtag. And she's like, start a hashtag right now. And he's like, I'm on it. And he picks up his phone and stuff like that. It was actually fucking hilarious. I'll give her that. Lacey Evans can be funny when she wants to.
Yeah.
God, we're flying through this. Hey?
Yeah, we're ripping through it tonight.
I mean,
not a whole lot happened. Stuff happened, but not a lot happened.
But at the same time, it's hard because everything was kind of crossing over, so it's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, there was a lot of bleed between stories here. And speaking of sort of bleeding stories together, we saw the return of Mandy and Otis this week. Mandy has arranged this sensual meat feast. Hot. For Otis in one of the back rooms. Sounds even sexier. So Otis has gone off to get ready. Mandy's done the same. Sonya stalked her, followed her, kicked the living shit out of her.
Yeah, makeup everywhere.
What
I'm
a
make
fucking
you ugly on the outside
down.
like you were on the inside. Oh, absolute beatdown. Makeup started cutting her hair, went to get the shavers, and then the referee stopped her and stuff like that. And this is very reminiscent to me of back in the day when they had a storyline where Mickie James was obsessed with Trish Stratus to the point of stalker romance.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
that's
very
the controversial
kind of
one,
reminiscent
isn't
of that.
it?
Yeah, I honestly think this is finally leading into something that I know because I watch Total Divas. They've been planning for a long time. I think this is leading into Sonya is pissed because Sonya wanted Mandy. We've seen how they've been before. They've been very, very close. And I think that there's the possibility that Sonya has deeper feelings for Mandy, and this is why she's so cut up about Mandy being with Otis. Like, you know, I don't know. I think that's where this is leading.
Well, I do think that's possible because a lot of the issues between the pair of them did sort of start once Otis sort of got in the picture, right?
Exactly.
You know,
and it's one of those like, I'll make you ugly so he doesn't watch you anymore, and then I'll pick up the scraps and build you back up type thing.
I see.
That's the way it seems to me. Yeah, definitely. But I think my favorite thing about all of this was when Charlie Caruso was standing by talking about what had happened to Manny, and Otis and Tucker were there, and Miz and Morrison just they came in and they started on the hair cutting jokes and like, I was going to ask you a question, but I'll shave it for later. This is a really cutting edge story, Chuck, and just shit like that. And then obviously you can see Tucker and Otis in the background, like looking visibly upset, which was awesome to see Tucker, by the way. Haven't seen him in a while. Looking Viral Schmick with straight hair, very pretty. But yeah, like they just kept making these jokes about hair and makeup and stuff like that, and it was fucking hilarious. Like when Miz and Morrison are on, they are fucking on, and they were on fire with these. And then yeah, Tucker and Otis came up, and they're like, "Gotta go," they just disappeared. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was the funniest damn thing. But yeah, I definitely think there's going to be some sort of Tucker and Otis versus Miz and Morrison at some point. There obviously at SummerSlam there's going to have to be a resolution to
it's Sonya versus Mandy. It's what it is. I think it's what it'll be.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be at SummerSlam. I think so. Probably one of the opening matches, but I think it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think like I said, eventually it's going to lead into that confession of Sonya's in love with Mandy type thing.
I think that would be a predictable story, but I do. It makes sense. Who comes out the winner of this? Like, is the winner Sonya if she beats Mandy and then professes her love? Like, or is it Mandy when she beats someone that has feelings for her? Like, what's the outcome here? What's the reasonable end?
I think it'll be a case of like, maybe like a reconciliation thing. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know where it could go.
But like if it's this weird thing because if Sonya gets the beat down and she wins, then it's a situation of like, well, I upped you. I proved my point. I'm the correct one. Done. But if Mandy wins, it's like, well, I proved you wrong. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I still love you. It's like, that's weird.
Yeah, I think it'll be
like how does Mandy forgive Sonya for what's been happening here?
I feel like it'll be a case of like, yeah, they do have that final battle. I reckon Sonya will take it out because she's got that real like fire about her, and then once she does, she'll have that realization of what she's done. Similar to something we'll talk about later. But she'll have that realization of like, oh shit, what have I done? And there'll be a very slow process, but I think like we'll end up seeing them come back together at some point. I don't know whether it's like, you know, Mandy and Otis break up and Mandy has nowhere to go and Sonya's like, look, I know we had our differences for a while there, but you know, I care about you still, and maybe, you know, she jumps in and like rebounds, plays the rebound on Manny. Who knows? There's so many options that could go, but I definitely think somewhere along the line and somewhere sooner rather than later, like before the end of the year, we're going to see Sonya profess her love for Mandy.
Interesting. Okay. I'm open to it. Next up was the main event of the night: Bayley versus Nikki Cross in a SmackDown Women's Championship rematch. We'll get. I know. We
have to mention something about that.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say we have to mention something before this though, which is the.
I was going to back end that because it happened at the end of the match. So.
Oh, back end it. Yeah, good idea.
So we see. We essentially see a rematch from what we saw. It was Extreme Rules. No, Extreme Rules?
Which we knew what was coming.
Yeah, Extreme Rules, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, extremely. So we knew this was coming. Obviously, Nikki Cross had the week prior bet her best friend, somebody who Nikki herself says is better than both Bayley and Sasha Banks, which I can agree with. But yeah, she's like, she comes out with a fire under her ass, and oh my god, was that a hell of a match, and probably a saving grace for the entire thing. But yeah, it was an amazing match.
I loved it.
Like, absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, Nikki Cross does lose, and she's very visibly upset, and Alexa's trying to help her out, and she ends up just shoving Alexa away and storming out. And then the venue shuts down.
But before we get into that, though, yes, the match was fantastic. Bayley was great. Like, you can clearly she was genuinely rattled. And this was a clean win here as well. So no sneaky involvement.
Because Nikki found the knuckle dusters and she like threw them.
Yeah, I thought that because Sasha does pass the boss rings to Bayley again. She's getting ready to get into a scuffle, and then she looks as if she goes for the swing. They come off. Nikki picks them up, and you think, is this her moment? Is this level of frustration? She's going to start swinging knuckle-dusted punches at Bayley. Turns out,
I was hoping for.
I would love that. Turns out not the case.
Yeah.
She pegs him. Nikki's in the right space. She's not doing that.
Pegs him at Sasha.
Yeah. I love that. That was great. Yeah. But yeah, of course, she
exactly
was bested here. The golden Raw models still are golden.
Yeah. They hold all the gold.
Yeah. As you mentioned, the lights dimmed down and we think The Fiend is coming. Speaking of The Fiend, though, before we jump into that, earlier in the night, we did get the Firefly Funhouse. We see Bray Wyatt. Looks like he's been out of a swamp. He said he's been hunting around the swamp trying to find Braun Strowman. I guess he's dead now.
Yeah, no, he goes, his exact words were like a part of him, like a part of his soul is there now. And he's like, he's going on about how, like, where is it, The Fiend? He's like, I never wanted to hurt Braun. I wanted to help him. He's like, but he's awoken and he wants what Braun has, and no one is safe until he gets it. And obviously does the dead stare into the camera and let him in.
Now, we should also mention, this is one of the first times that we've heard Bray Wyatt say, let me, in that sort of that Fiend voice.
Him in. Yeah,
so
he hasn't said it in a while.
So what we're seeing here is we're seeing that line, previously was a clear division between the two. Like, there was Bray Wyatt, in the Firefly Funhouse, Bray Wyatt, and there was The Fiend. And very rarely had there really been a lot of, like, a crossover. Like, we've been led to believe it's like a switch. It's like bang, 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 sort of like switch between the two.
Yeah, light on, light off.
Exactly. Yeah. But it looks as if we're getting a bit more of a dimmer here. Like, there is a little bit of fade between the two, and it looks as if it comes SummerSlam when we get The Fiend versus Braun Strowman. It's going to be an interesting place, I think.
Definitely, especially with what happened after this, because after the Nikki Cross and Bayley match, The Fiend does come out. And while Alexa Bliss is still in the ring, and everything's red around her, and The Fiend is right behind her, and he just very slowly and very methodically makes his way up to her. And you can see him staring at his hand, and she's staring at him and staring at the hand and like just shaking her head like, please don't, please don't, please don't. And then bam, mandible claw, and the lights go out. And this, to me, is exciting because obviously at the horror show Extreme Rules, we saw the Swamp's amalgamation of Alexa Bliss as what could only be assumed as the sister Abigail, like calling Braun to the Swamp. So
playing on a storyline from the Mixed Match Challenge a little while, back 2018, where it was clear that Braun maybe have a bit of the love interest for Alexa Bliss, but who fucking doesn't, might I add? Oh.
I know. Have you seen her? Oh. I'd have a moment of bliss gladly.
God, boy, would I underperform and just straight up disappoint her. Like, oh my God.
And I'd do it with pleasure.
Oh man. God, I would inconvenience her.
Yeah. I think obviously this is going to be a driving force for Braun Strowman to reappear. And not just that, I think with Nikki pushing Alexa away, she may feel like she has nothing else, which may drag her into the funhouse.
True.
So, Yeah, it's really interesting to see how this is going to go. I would love to see Alexa Bliss as a Sister Abigail type character. Obviously, we initially talked about Liv Morgan, but obviously Liv Morgan's not on SmackDown, so I'm kind of excited to see where this goes.
I agree. I do like I like this angle. I really enjoy the. So one of the big reasons that Alexa Bliss was involved in the swamp situation, with why Bray Wyatt would use her as a point of reference, is that we understand that connection to Braun. Maybe Braun, we presume Braun still has a little bit of a, little bit of love in there for Alexa. So he's playing on that.
He did go to her.
He did go to her, and then what we're seeing here is he's just like, all right, I'm bringing this into the real world. I'm taking this out of the swamp and I'm bringing it into the arena, and I'm calling Braun out. Like, although we have
back,
yeah.
A little part of his soul will always be in the swamp, but we've got to get him back.
And so I think this might be what crosses the line and gets him back. But
it'll be interesting to see.
It does. It does bring us to the end of SmackDown. Jem, what do you think overall?
It is. Look, it had some okay points and some not so great points. It was a bit of fucking thrown together. It's kind of like they threw shit over the last minute and just picked what's stuff. It's hard, I think, with like the Fiend stuff and like that little jokey bit about Miz and Morrison. I'd probably sort of call it down the middle and just give it one Kurt.
I'm the same boat. I'd give it one Kurt Angle as well. For those that may be new to the show, that's how we rate. We rate on a Kurt Angle because he looks like a thumb. So if something's good, it gets 2 Kurt Angles. If it's a half point, is a bar. So you can get a Kurt and a bar. A bar, 2 Kurts. I'm done. I'm similar to you.
I was gonna say I loved when.
What was it? Sorry.
I was gonna say I absolutely loved when in the Jeff Hardy and Sheamus match when he's like, "You're still the bar," and he's like, "I am the bar."
I'm in a similar boat to you, right down the middle. It's one Kurt Angle for me. There was enough here to be entertained, and there's cool little moments from story stuff, and like especially like Sonya's return, getting involved. Like I really enjoyed that. That was a super nice beat down.
Good, yeah. And how vicious.
Yeah, there were some really cool things here, but overall, I was left kind of That's fine.
Yeah, and it was a bad start.
Yeah.
Like I had so much trouble getting into it because of that first match. Like,
so it got the job done.
You got to start strong,
but it could have been better.
Yeah.
All right, let's move it into RAW.
Wow.
Kick it off for us, Jem. Where do you want to start today? Where are we looking at?
I reckon we start with... We'll probably have to do all that last because there was so much of it. I reckon we start with the KO show. Yay! Why not have a surprise return?
That's right.
Yeah, so Kevin Owens rolls in backstage, which is awesome. We haven't seen him in a little while. And the Iconics roll up to him, both of them. Both Shinsuke and Peyton Royce.
Happy with
that.
And
they come sliding up and they're like, so we hear that you're hosting the KO show up next. And he was like, yep, yeah, that's me. And they're like, you should probably have some iconic guests then. And he's like, I'd love that. You're from Australia. I love Australia. It's great. Thanks, Kevin.
Shout out to Australia.
And then he's like, yeah, but not this week. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I've already got guests lined up for this week. And they're like, what? And he goes, have a water, girls. I'll talk to you next time, and walks away. And they're both standing there dumbfounded. So he brings it to the ring and he brings out his first guest, Ruby freaking Riott.
Yeah.
Which I was stoked about. Obviously, we know that there's been a lot going on with her and trying to reconcile with Liv Morgan and stuff like that. And her hair, that transition from like the green to the yellow or the lighter green, beautiful. But yeah, she comes out and she's like, KO talks about the win over Peyton Royce last week and how emotional it was. And Ruby's like, yeah, it was. It would have been better if I had Liv Morgan by my side. And KO's like, before she can finish saying that, KO was like, well, and he's like, sorry, I got really excited, but I have somebody here who's going to hear you out. Like, brings out Liv Morgan. And I was like, oh, shit. And Liv Morgan comes down and KO, like, just says the most beautiful thing. Is like, I've done a lot of dumb shit in my life. I've broken a lot of relationships to try and get where I need to be in this industry. And he's like, and I regret all of it. He's like, please, Liv, just hear Ruby out. Like, you guys are my friends. I want the best for you guys. So super emotional. Ruby's like, I'm so sorry. I came back thinking that you guys would need me, and then it looked like you didn't need me, and that made me angry, and that's why I took that out on you, and I shouldn't have taken that out on you, and I'm so sorry. And she was crying, and Liv was crying, and I was crying, and Kevin was probably a little sniffly. And yeah, it was just the most beautiful thing. And as it's all happening, the Iconics come out.
Of course they do.
And yeah, they ruin the whole thing. KO's like, guys, like, come on now. I think, we're trying to reconcile over here. Can you come back next week? And like, KO says something, but Peyton Royce just slaps him in the face.
Oh,
and
my favorite
like,
part. Okay, so for some reason throughout the night, we see constant interference. Like lights are dimming, lights are dimming out, mics are cutting out, and so yeah.
Oh yeah, this is what I was going to mention.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Is like KO turns to Peyton and Billy and he's like, "Can we get some technical problems for their mics only?" And that's when Peyton slaps him. That was gold. That was absolute. I love KO. But yeah, KO gets clocked by Peyton, and then he looks at Billy and he's like, "Was that really necessary?" And Billy's like, "Yep," and slaps him as well. And just before this, like, Liv Morgan is like, me and Ruby might not agree on much anymore, but, and we may not be iconic, but we sure as hell know how to start a riot. Yeah. Iconic.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, ah! And then, like, after KO gets slapped.
I have to admit, like, when this, started right, because I was watching it with... So Craig and I, the Mild Show, he and I have been doing little watch-alongs together just because it's fun.
I love
it's fun because break isolation and just sort of have something to do, have someone to share it with. So yeah, like I was sitting here, like I was talking to him and I was just thinking about it on my phone. And so I'm gonna have to start a riot. I literally went, okay, I'm back now.
What?
Well, yeah, because like
I'm listening.
They address that Sarah's not around and she's off elsewhere. If anything, if this works, Sarah might come fucking back. I think she's pregnant though.
Who knows? Oh, interesting.
Maybe not. May have made that up
But,
completely. Mad Dog in the chat. Even he says, "I got it."
I got it. But yeah, KO looks at Ruby and Liv, and he's just like, "Ladies, can I get some help?" And they just pummel. And it ends up being the Riot Squad versus the Iconics.
Yeah, I needed it.
Which I was hyped.
I didn't know I needed it, but I got it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know I needed it either. And it happened. And Liv Morgan got the win in this match for her and Ruby. And they were obviously still a bit hesitant with one another. But there was like a cheeky grin at the end of it. And it was actually a really beautiful exchange. And I am actually really, really excited to see these two back together.
Yeah, and it's like for the thing for me that I love about this is it's filling up that women's tag team roster again. Like it's been a little bit quiet. We need someone that can maybe step up and take out the Bailey and Sasha. Even then, it's just because we lost Kyrie, so the Kabuki Warriors at Dunskies.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
So
So they do
we're losing one.
It is a career-ending. For Kyrie.
Well, her contract ran out. She's gone. But as one team leaves, another one comes in. Do you think that the Riot Squad, because they had been a tag team since their arrival on NXT, right? Though they have been a collective group. I
forgot that Ruby mentions that.
Yeah, they're
talks
tattooed.
about the tattoos they got on their debut.
Yep. So, if anything, they 100% deserve to be in this tag titles.
Oh, Christ, yeah. 100%. More than anyone they do.
So my son's coming in and calling me names. We have this little thing where we call each other punks. I'm like, you're the punk.
Oh.
And he's coming to tell me that I'm a punk.
Punk. Yeah, that's cute. But still, back on the subject of KO quickly, we do see that KO is backstage a little bit later. And Ric Flair came up to him and he's trying to give him advice.
I'm pretty sure Ric Flair had a stroke during that conversation. It was...
Yeah!
It's not looking... Like, why do they keep wheeling him out?
I couldn't understand a word he was saying. And there's Ric Flair's wheeling dealing jet planes. But yeah, basically, like, KO's like, look, I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't need your advice. I don't need any, like, allyship. And, you know, Rick's like, he says something, but all I got out of it was KO challenged Randy Orton. Yeah, he's just like, KO's just like, have your boy Randy meet me in the ring next week. And so it's going to be Randy versus KO next week. I'm excited.
I'm keen as hell. I want to see that. I want to see that so bad.
Yeah, 100%.
But Ric Flair was there to sort of be on the side of Randy Orton headed into SummerSlam. You know, because even SummerSlams now, you won't see it coming. They're really like they're pushing that. You know, that Randaddy versus Drew McIntyre match.
Drew McIntyre,
great,
which they had during the ring, and
great promos from them today.
Amazing! Especially because, like, you know, Randy Orton was like, you know, I want to hear something from your own mouth, not anybody else's, yada, yada, yada. You've said the same shit that everybody else has said. And Drew McIntyre's like, oh, you want to shoot Randy? And I was like, oh, this is about to get real quick. Like, and I was all about it. Because you could tell there was, like, a fire. And Drew was like, you know, I got fired, but it shouldn't have been me. It should have been you. And you've had everything handed to you with a silver fucking spoon because you're Bob Orton's kid. And, you know, I fought for this and you've just been given it. And, you know, and, like, there was some real fire there. And, like, I just loved Drew McIntyre, everything about him, just the whole, like, you want to shoot Randy just got me going.
But he brought up a good point because he talks about how during the Undertaker Last Ride documentary, you know, and he talked about it with Edge as well, about how when Randy needed it, there was someone that came down there, picked him up and pulled him out of his hole and helped him. And he's like, well, when the fuck have you done that, Randy? If everyone's pulling you, like, with no point have you done the same. Like when I was in the shit heap and I was about to get fired, I would have loved the support, the hand from Randy Orton, but you weren't there because that's not how you work because you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly it. And yeah, that was really like, you know, he says I was going through it and you know I was and nothing. Like you should be putting your hand down and helping other people like they've helped you, but nothing. You're in it for your own gain. And he's like, you know, like Randy's like, I'm not in this for monetary gain. He's like, I've made my money. I'm here because I enjoy RKOing people and punting their skulls in. And I was like, oof, you're a savage. But then they like get into it like Drew McIntyre pulls out his savage side and is like, I'm just going to destroy you. And I was like, the more you talk, the more I want this. Both of you.
Yeah. Well, them and the match, I'm aware.
Yeah. And, Ric Flair was just standing there dying slowly. He was there. Just
I don't know why they keep wheeling him out. I don't get it.
He was dead as some of the pixels in the LEDs.
Yeah, he was just around. Once again, I know we've discussed this in the past, but WWE really are mishandling like any old talent. It's always the same fucks, and it's, you know. Oh, side note, did you hear that the Rock put $15 million into the XFL? He owns it now.
He bought it.
Yeah.
He owns the XFL. Yeah, sure does.
Fucking weird.
What a dumb move.
I think he's just holding it. I think he's holding it for when Vince can buy it again. It's like, well, he goes, I know I could buy it back off Dwayne. Like, he'll sell it to me. Like, if it went to some other rando, you know.
That's true. That's very, very
Dash
true.
and I had a little bit of conspiracy theory about why it's gone to Dwayne of all people.
Oh.
Like, what's his interest in it? But it's, of course, us being speculative.
Yes. Let's talk about things we don't like.
All right, that sounds good.
Like XFL and Nia Jax.
Oh, fucking Nia Jax. Oh, goddamn son of a bitch. I hate you so much.
This was the most gratifying episode of Nia Jax ever because it's implied that she's going to be coming out and giving Pat, whatever his name is, an apology for attacking him last week. Huh?
Pat Duff.
Oh, something. Yeah. And she comes out and she just starts talking absolute smack on him and then tries to challenge him to a match. And Pat goes, you know, I was expecting an apology. You know what, Nia Jax? You're suspended indefinitely without pay.
Yes! Maybe, hey, Rock, maybe you shouldn't have paid $15 million instead, like, help your cousin because she's fucking out of a job. Woo!
And she got fined an undisclosed amount of money for attacking Pat last week.
Fucked.
So she's out of money and out of a job.
See?
So, obviously she cracks the shits and attacks him again. Whatever. Like, just get out. You're gone. No, and everybody's like, na 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 na. Hey, goodbye.
Pat Buck. Thank you, Mad Dog. Don't know where Duff came from.
Yeah. But yeah. That was probably the best news of the evening.
It was awesome. Nia Jax, you can eat my farts. Oh my God. Like, you... Oh.
Eat my farts.
It was so good. Dude, what do you think here, Jem? Like, we're not going to see it. Josh Robbins in the chat. Yo! What's up, Josh? Yeah, so Nia Jax out indefinitely. I presume she's taking a break. I presume she's someone's realized that she's shit, and we saw it last week when she tried to take someone. She tried to pull the shirt over the head of a man who was clearly wearing a tie and button collar.
That same guy. It was Pat.
Fucking
it was that
idiot.
guy.
I know. I'm just saying, like, she doesn't even understand how shirts work. So, like, kick her out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly it.
Oh,
exactly it. We've seen her injure too many people.
I could watch.
Like,
I
her
watched.
whole legacy is breaking Becky's face.
I've watched it a couple of times.
Like,
I'm like,
that's not a good legacy.
It's just too delicious. I've watched it a couple of times.
Yeah. Just that you're suspended indefinitely without pay.
That's
like,
right.
Just that bit. No,
that's all I need now.
Just him. Yeah.
That's all I need. I'll save it in my phone for
Absolutely
later in times of need.
Yeah. What else did we have here? Oh, we kept seeing throughout the night little weird snippets of Raw Underground.
Well, I want to back end with Raw Underground. There's a lot we can talk about with Raw Underground. So, one thing
that was just happening throughout the show, which was odd.
Yeah, so look, it was looking as if Nia Jax was probably going to get into the line for the title picture. She was starting to build up some shit with who she be with Baszler, right?
Baszler,
so now that Nia Jax is
indefinitely,
so like that leaves room for Baszler to come back into this party. So she gets up in Sasha Banks' business.
I swear to God, that was a stiff punch.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't just get up in her, like, Sasha Banks' face. Her fist went through Sasha Banks' jaw. Like, she got inside her face. That was, like... So, like... Yeah, so Sasha and Bailey are having an interview with Sarah, I'm pretty sure, and they're just, like... They show some, like, fancy promo video that gets dicked around by Asuka about them getting their asses handed to them. And then Asuka at the end of it is, like, screaming and yelling, and she's like, revenge is going to be very, very sweet. And then, yeah, Shayna Baszler comes up and she's like, I've heard you guys talking. I'm sick of your shit. I'm sick of waiting in the shadows. Pow.
Right in the kisser.
Right. Oh, my God. She hit her so hard. Like, that was so, like, she clocked her in the jaw properly. Like, she was not playing. Like, yeah, look, like you right now. Like, you're just like, crack my jaw because I can feel it too. But this obviously did lead us into a match later in the night where Shayna Baszler did come up one-on-one with Sasha Banks.
Yes, she did.
She sure did. Obviously, Bailey ringside. Like, to start the match, obviously, Sasha's pissed, so she slaps Baszler. And then, yeah, throughout the match, like, Asuka ends up coming like, a good match. Like, considering who Shayna Baszler is, like, Sasha really held her own. Considering how, like, she's smaller and stuff. But yeah, somewhere at the point in the match, Asuka comes running down and attacks Bailey, and causes, obviously, the DQ.
So what's
Baszler.
really bizarre here, right, is that Asuka runs ringside and starts beating on Bailey. At that moment in time, that is not a DQ. Yet the bell rings as if it's a DQ. I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then shortly after, Asuka gets in and starts chasing Sasha. But up until that point, like, the bad call by the ref there. Either or a preemptive call.
Yeah.
But even then, if I was in that match, if I was Shayna Baszler, I would question that shit. I'm like, why did you call the match that had nothing 100%. To do with it?
Yeah.
Up until Asuka ran into that ring, she was not causing an issue. She was
legal. Yeah. Yeah, it was legal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this does lead to Asuka getting interviewed in the ring, and they're like, can you tell us any more about Kairi? And she's like, Kairi will be okay. but Kairi's not here. I'm here, Sasha's here, Bayley's here, and I want a rematch at SummerSlam. And Baszler pops into the ring, and Baszler's like, no, I don't want to fight. I'm not here to fight you. She's like, I want you to win. I'm rooting for you. I want you to take this, Asuka. You know why? So I can beat the living hell out of you and take that title right off you. That was a very interesting angle, because that's got me thinking that's gonna happen. And that I want to see. I want to see Baszler versus Asuka 100%. Like, over anyone. And then, like, Sasha and Bayley end up, for some reason they left and then they ended up coming back, as you do. And then they come out and, like, this is the best. This was my glory moment. Sasha was like, you know, I'll give you your rematch at SummerSlam if you can beat, like, she starts rattling off these titles and she goes, my best friend Bayley.
Yeah, so she was starting to, like, sell it Charlotte Flair. I read it as Charlotte Flair. I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah. Oh, no, it's Bayley.
And then she goes, my best friend Bayley. And I was like, oh, payback! Bayley's finally getting hers for fucking putting Sasha in the deep end so many times. So next week, it is Asuka and Bayley one-on-one to see if Asuka will contend for the belt at SummerSlam. Yeah. Sasha's belt.
I'm super down for that.
You know what? I was not expecting it. Like you, I was like, oh crap, here we go, Charlotte Flair. And then, Charlotte Flair. And then, yeah, she goes, Bayley. And I was like, huh? And I had to go back and listen again. And she's like, my best friend, Bayley. And I was like, oh, that is some, like, friendly fire right there. That's some you did it to me. Now I'm going to do it to you, bitch. That's the double gold mindset, that, like, whole, like, I've got both the belts, like, I'm superior to you.
Yeah, so the what would be ideal here, right? Because if this leads into some potential horsewomen stuff, you know, because we know that Shayna Baszler is part of the four horsewomen of the MMA.
Oh yeah, and she mentioned the four.
Yeah.
Yep, and she mentioned the whole four horsewomen of the WWE.
Yeah, which Sasha, Bayley, Charlotte, and Becky are all part of, but Becky's out for a while. Because last we heard there were some plans around the horsewomen, but neither Maria Shafir or Jessamine Duke were ready. And Ronda's off trying to get pregnant too, I guess. Apparently still, I don't know.
Yeah. Although she's in the most recent World of Warcraft ads.
Yeah, shout out to that. Hey, when you can't have babies, you play WoW. That's how it works.
Yeah, exactly it.
So it's right? That's how you don't have babies. Let me tell you. Yeah, so maybe they're lining up some of that sort of stuff. Maybe they can sort of blur that line between, like, even though like maybe 3-on-3, Shayna, Jessamine, and Maria.
Yeah, who knows? Maria, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. Like, maybe even though she's trying, maybe we might see a resurgence of Ronda Rousey. Who knows?
Could happen.
At the moment, anything is possible. I'm just super excited to watch Sasha throw Bayley under the bus. Yeah. Like, I think it's about damn time. Like, but yeah, I'm all for this, actually. Like, I am all for it. As a competitor, like, Sasha's great, but Sasha's great against people with the same stature as her. Being that Asuka's a bit sort of a bit more, like, Sasha's very petite, whereas, like, Bayley's got a bit of beef to her. Baszler's got a bit of beef to her. Asuka's got a bit of beef to her. So, like, that size and the viciousness of them, like, Sasha just doesn't meet that level. And, like, I know for a fact, like, watching, like, Baszler was throwing Sasha around like a rag doll. Like, I honestly think that Baszler is better off going up against Asuka. Simply. I think that's just the best way to do it. And I'm hyped to see it.
I too am quite stoked. But yeah, let's have a look. Speaking of SummerSlam though, one thing that happened last week was Dominic Mysterio, the accident that was.
I still love that they call him Mysterio.
Dominic put out the call to take on Seth Rollins at SummerSlam.
Yeah, so he did that this week. Sarah's interviewing him, and she's like, why do you keep coming back? Why do you keep doing this? And it's like, Sarah, everybody calls me crazy, but, when it comes to family, like, this is a no-brainer. It's just what you do. But, like, they call me crazy, but I'm going to show them how crazy I am because I'm challenging Seth Rollins to a match at SummerSlam. I squealed.
Yeah.
My housemates texted me to make sure I was okay. I was like, it's it. It's finally happening. Dominic is finally here. And we do have like a little bit of a backstage segment where Murphy is re-watching the happenings of last week. And Seth is like, you made the right decision. You did the right thing.
He's clearly shook.
And Murphy's like, yeah, very shook. And Murphy's just like, what do you make of this whole Dominic thing? And he's like, Seth's just like, he's an idiot. He's a dumb child. Like, but, we need to address it. I had no idea. Like, I was hoping that that Seth would take the challenge, which he ends up doing.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, but before that, like Seth and Murphy come out to the ring after this little backstage exchange, and they start to, like, Seth is just like, we need to discuss something before I get to the subject of Dominic. And he's like, he starts walking, like, he calls out Tom Phillips, and he's like, Tom Phillips, do you consider yourself a professional? And he walks over and he starts talking about how, Tom Phillips is the voice of WWE and he's the voice of Raw. And, he, without knowing it, he is a part of the greater good. And he should be using that for good. And he's jeopardizing his position and being a non-biased commentator by laughing at Seth Rollins last week getting attacked by Dominic with the kendo stick and stuff like that. And
can I just point something out?
Like,
there was about 9 references to journos and shitting on journalism in this episode of Raw.
Yeah,
like, someone clearly had a fucking ulterior motive when writing this motherfucker. Like,
oh yeah. Like Bailey and that were going off. It seems to always be directed at Sarah mostly, but yeah, this one was directed at Tom Phillips.
No, I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, whoever wrote this one, who rewrote, apparently was being rewritten as it was being shot. It's just like, all right, you're angry. You're angry at the papers for some reason.
Yeah, exactly it. But yeah, like basically, like yeah, Seth is like, we need a new voice of Raw, clearly an unbiased one. And he goes, get him. And Murphy goes to walk over and Samoa Joe stands up. And he's basically like, he's like, you want to have a go at Tom Phillips for laughing. He was like, I was laughing the hardest at this table last week at you. And Seth's like, Joe, you don't want to do this. And Joe's like, oh no, Seth, I think I do. And I was like, Joe. And he starts taking off his Joe starts taking off his jacket. Seth and Murphy run into the ring, they've got chairs. Joe's going to get into the ring, and then out of nowhere, Dominic appears with a kendo stick and just rips them apart. And Joe sits down and gets his headset back on, and he's screaming excitedly about Dominic just decimating Seth and that. He I'm pretty sure he's 619 Seth at some point.
He did, and it was a sweet 619.
It's so weird because he is so tall and lanky. It's so odd to see someone so long. Like, it felt like it took forever because of how far it takes him to get around. It was so cool to see that he's taken that from Ray, though. And he executed it beautifully. And, that slide through the ropes, the jumping kick into the chest of Murphy and stuff. Absolutely beautiful execution. And then I loved at the end of it, obviously they've got the camera. Joe's sweaty, clearly ready to go. Tom Phillips is sitting there visibly shaken, and Byron's trying to obviously get everyone back together. And you see the little fist bump between Tom and Joe. That was the cutest. That was just like, thanks for having my back, dude. Yeah. That was just so beautiful to me. I was like, oh, I want more Joe now. So I'm hoping
I want Joe everywhere.
Somewhere,
they're like, we're going to discuss.
I'm hoping he gets involved.
We're going to discuss the section a little bit later that happened in the back end of the show that I think Joe needs to be a part of. But before we jump into that, Mad Dog in the chat adds, he goes, should have been Byron Saxton. Now, I think the reason Saxton wasn't involved here is because the way the commentary team works out, and I 100% know that Mad Dog knows this. Like, so you've got Mad Dog sort of being the heel commentator. Sorry, you're Mad Dog. You've got Joe being the sort of the semi-heelish commentator. You've got Saxon being the face,
unbiased.
and Saxon being the face, and then you've got Phillips in the middle. He's supposed to be calling the shots, so he is supposed to be presented as unbiased. So that's it makes sense. Like, if he calls out Saxon for goon, he's like, well, that's kind of what I'm supposed to be doing on the table, dude. Where Saxon's supposed to be there calling the shots, being like, this is what it is, that's what it is.
Saxon's literally in the middle. Yeah. He is the middle man. So that's literally, like, they literally, perform, like, job-wise, that is his category. He's the middleman, but sitting in the bench.
And the same way that Michael Cole does. Like, they are...
Exactly.
They're down the line.
Cole is unbiased, whereas Corey's sort of like... Corey is just...
Yeah.
He's all over the place.
Corey is very clearly heel commentator in that setup, you know?
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, which I do love. We, at some point, saw a triple threat match for the 24/7
Oh, yeah, that was fucking weird.
Was a joke. Yeah, so Shelton Benjamin at one point, MVP's backstage talking about something. Who knows? We'll talk about it later. But Shelton Benjamin's like, bro, my belt's missing. And he's like, what? And he's like, my belt has been stolen. And then later in the night, we see R-Truth come running out with the belt in hand. Ninja's chasing him. Akira Tozawa there. Shelton Benjamin on his way down as well. And they end up obviously kicking into this match, which was just... It was so stupid, but it was so much fun. Because it was like the Hurt Business versus the Ninjas with poor R-Truth just added on his own. The Ninjas get involved. The Hurt Business get involved. Triple threat, so there's no DQs. While there's a big old scuffle going on out the back, Akira Tozawa, takes his opportunity and gets the pin on R-Truth.
I think so, yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Which
gives him the title, because you don't have to pin the champion to win in a triple threat match. So, Akira Tozawa is now the... I think they were saying R-Truth was going for... He's had it 37 times?
Yeah, there's been over 100 or 150 different title holders, the 24/7 champion. I think it's 100.
Yeah, something like that. Which I also thought was interesting was that Bayley is just under 300 days as champion.
I know.
Which is close to a year. She's pushing a year. But yeah, that was just a little bit of fun, I guess, like the ninjas and stuff like that. That belt's still a joke. It's just without Truth holding it.
Yeah, it's lost its oomph.
Yeah, exactly.
But its use is for that 1 week that it was involved in the Hurt Business, that, it did add some legitimacy to them in terms of everyone having the title. Everyone but Bobby Lashley, because MVP had the self-proclaimed United States champion.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it was a bit of fun. Another thing we saw was the same match, just split in half. It was Andrade versus Montez Ford and Angel Garza versus Angelo Dawkins. One after the other in singles competition. And there was some chick from The Bachelor or something there that
Demi
Garza was talking up, and Demi.
Oh no, Angel was getting his smooch on.
Yeah, and he was backstage. He gave Charlie a flower that night as well. I was like, I see what he's doing there, The Bachelor. But yeah, he's like, oh, Andrade, this is my friend Demi, and Andrade just rolls his eyes, and Selena's like, I know who she is. When he comes up, said, Zelina, this isn't. She's like, I know who she is, and she's like, you don't belong here, and he's like, no, she does, and he's like. Zelina's like, if she belongs here, we have a problem. Let's talk. Man. And they walk away and and he's like, I'll get you a seat, it's fine. So she's watching on the monitor backstage. But yeah, they obviously all come out, and it's first Angel Garza versus Angelo Dawkins, which is a really good match. But at some point, Montez Ford's collapse.
Yeah, so we see early on we see Montez sniffing his cup, and he's like, it's a bit weird, but he just chugs it anyway. So during his match with Garza, we see him collapse, stumble and be a bit sketchy on his feet, and then after a top rope suicide.
With Andrade.
Sorry, I forget who it was. Against Andrade, he gets in the ring, does his Ultimate Warrior kind of thing, and then he just does
the Batista and then just drops, and the referee just stops the match. He's like, nah, he can't compete. There's something wrong here. You don't just collapse like that. And even like Zelina Vega and Andrade and that were all a bit like, oh shit, what's going on? Like they were a bit concerned. And he does obviously get carted off, and they're backstage with Charlie, and Andrade and Zelina and that come up, and they're like, you know, we're concerned. Like, Dawkins comes out and he's like, oh, you know, they said he's been poisoned. And everybody obviously looks it up, like Vega and crew.
The boys.
And we'll call them the Vega Bus.
The Vega Bus.
Yeah, instead of the Vega Bus. The Vega Bus, yeah. And she's like, you don't think it was me, do you? And she's like, I'm not that stupid. She's like, the Street Profits are amazing wrestlers and even better champions. She's like, I would not jeopardize our position at all to lose those championships. If they can't compete, we can't compete for them. Why would I do something stupid like that? And then
Bianca did the, I'm going to take my earrings off and then fucking ruin your face.
Yeah, she comes out and she's like, I know it was you, Vega. You're the only one with the smarts to do it. And she goes, yeah, I am the smarts of this operation, but I'm not that stupid. Like, she's like, you know, I wouldn't want to jeopardize their chance at the titles at SummerSlam. What's wrong with you? And Bianca's like, yo, hold my poodle. Like, takes off the earrings and just goes her. And they have to separate them. And it was beautiful. So I'm kind of excited to see like a little bit of Vega versus Belair.
Yeah, man.
Again.
Give me that.
Because we saw a little bit of it at Rumble, I think it was.
Yeah, no.
But yeah,
I like it. I'm down. Well, it was good to see Bianca come back and be involved. And if we can have, the 3-on-3, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And I do love that she mentioned her husband. She's like, yo, hold my poodle, my husband.
Yeah. Now, in the chat, Dash Gamer mentions that Mr. Montez Ford didn't pass out from a poisoning. He passed out from the smell of Shane McMahon's sweaty, stanky armpits. Because Shane McMahon's back to sweat up the storm as he does. Big Mac Daddy Shane.
Yeah.
But he was there for an interesting reason. So we see a room that's and the door says Raw Underground, and we hear a lot of like and like loud rustling noises. Yeah. We come to learn that Shane's holding like some fucking blood sport ring.
Fight Club.
It's
WWE Fight Club.
Yeah. So there's
he's broken the first rule of Fight Club.
Yeah.
All he does is talk about it.
You're not supposed to talk about it, and then he was just told everyone about it. He's on the door.
Yeah, he's like, oh, underground. I was just like, Raw Fight Club.
Yeah,
like,
so we're seeing a bunch of randos just pummel each other. But it's weird, like for
and then the Viking Raiders get involved.
Like for a fight club, some guy takes a double axe handle and then he's like, oh no, fuck, all right, ref, call it. I'm like, he's got punched slightly. Yeah. That's not a fight club. But then you obviously see Eric come in and bust the living shit out of some guy, which I loved. Dolph Ziggler's in there busting some dude as well.
Dolph did awesome. He was doing great in the Fight Club. It was a bit of fun, like a little bit of dudes getting sweaty together, putting their meat on their meat.
Yeah, there was tons like that. I think that's why Shane loved it. He's like, I'm finally not the sweatiest person in the room. It's the only reason he did it.
So yeah, so it was interesting because it does sort of like come to light that the glitching was caused by sabotage. There was like video footage of somebody backstage, like literally like Molotov firebombing some tech stuff that was causing glitching and the microphone.
Yeah, and there was claim that it was sort of because of this underground setup.
Yeah, because they were stealing all the power or something. I don't know. But so what happens is MVP lost his match against Apollo Crews. Yeah. So we finally had the Extreme Rules match against Apollo and MVP, which obviously the Hurt Business were there. They were getting involved. And Apollo Crews does get the up. He gets the win. He gets his belt back. He gets given both belts, which was beautiful. And then goes backstage and he talks about how he did it for his kids and how, like, he was sitting at home and his kids were like, Daddy, we thought you were the champion type thing. And he's like, this one, the old one, I'm going to hang that in my kids' room so they can see the first championship I ever won in the WWE. And he takes the other one to wear. But yeah, so Montez throughout the entire night, Montel Vontavious Porter, MVP, sooking all night to anybody who will listen about, the glitching is what caused my loss. This caused my loss. That caused my loss, yada, yada, yada. And then, we did see a beautiful slide out of the full Nelson by by Apollo Crews. I will give him that. Bobby Lashley went to lock it in and he was like, bye.
Swear.
Just
took that Shane McMahon slip out, you know?
Yeah, exactly it. Just slipped out of his shirt. And then, shortly, like, when, like, Montel's complaining about losing, that's when we find out the belt had been stolen, the 24/7 championship, which, you know, Shelton Benjamin ended up losing anyway. So, in one night, the Hurt Business have lost all their gold. And in talking to Charlie Caruso and finding out about, like, the firebombing of the tech staff, they're just like, don't you think it's a bit of a coincidence that this underground thing's going on? And that got Molotovs by people all, like, suspicious and stuff. Like, and she's like, I didn't think there was any coincidence there, but now that you mention it, and they're like, we're going to check something out. And the Hurt Business go down. And they basically take over the show. Beat the shit out of everyone there.
Yeah, Bobby just, like, neck
just,
meets
like,
some guy off the side of the ring.
Oh, my God. Yeah, just lifted him up into it. Because it's just a ring without the barriers.
The ropes.
Without the ropes. And the ring posts. So, just lifts him up and just starts dousing him, and they end up getting out of the ring and beating the shit out of everybody, which, like, you know, MVP's match was shithouse anyway. Like, that was another starter match that was really disappointing. It was slow, things weren't landing properly. I was just like, oh, thank God he doesn't have the belt anymore. Never had it in the first place, but you know what I mean. But yeah, it was really interesting because Shane McMahon afterwards was like, yeah, this is what this is all about. You're welcome back anytime, guys. This is great. And I was just like,
yeah. See, that's the thing. So, like, I love the idea of this Raw Underground, right? So, if we remember back to, who knows how long ago it was? There, Mick Foley. Remember, he came and he was like, "Look, we're gonna make the back hour of Raw dark. Like, the lights will dim down. There's no screen. Like, it's gonna be fucking gritty, hardcore shit, right?" That never eventuated. After a week, it got canned, and this is what they're doing here. So, essentially, the last hour is going to be Raw Underground. So what I heard recently, and I thought this would be a great idea, was that because you know how we're complaining that Raw is too long. Raw Underground, quote, was from 10 onwards US time. So that's the last hour of Raw was kind of like the way it was alluded to was the showcase of Raw Underground. What if Raw becomes 2 hours, but Raw Underground is the last hour? So everything stays tidy in 2 hours, and we have a whole other timeline, a whole other path of stories in Raw Underground. Hardcore shit. Hard shit. Because one of the biggest problem that Raw has is its ratings, especially the ratings in the last hour. Do you think this could be enough to give Raw a bump it needs?
I think it's definitely like, I didn't think of it that way initially, but now that you've mentioned it in that context, I honestly and wholeheartedly believe that is probably the smartest idea.
So what did you...
I think that
before I mentioned that, you said you think of something different. How did you perceive it?
I just thought it was just a bit. I thought it was just a bit, and we wouldn't see any more of it, or like, you know, MVP is going to try and get some gold by, like, you know, starting an underground circuit and, you know, doing shady shit.
Like, it's a lot of build up for a stable that no one really cares about.
Yeah, exactly it. So it's a little bit like, I don't know, like, I feel like if they were to come in and the Hurt Business were to run underground, I think that could work. I think they could make it work, because then we wouldn't have to deal with Shane.
See, but this is the thing.
I think that's the whole idea.
I kind of missed Shane. I was glad to see him back.
Nah,
I'm a secret sucker for Shane O'Mac.
No dice. I mean, in small doses, yeah, it's fine, but I got very sick of him very quickly.
I missed that Schwep boy. Like, I'm glad he was back.
Yeah. I mean, if he's going to do it, if he's doing like a commentary role or something like that, I think he could pull it off. But yeah, who knows? I think the way you've mentioned it, I think they've got something cool.
Well, also, I'd
like to see how.
From what I've said, is very hopeful, right? Like, there's a lot of hope.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
There's a lot of hope that they don't get bored of it in a week, which they certainly could and probably will do. But I think there is some potential there for them to, like, if they focus on it, deliver it properly, give it room to breathe, you know, do it right, they may be able to have something, even if people come and tune in for the last hour. Like, obviously, they have to stay X whatever rated, right? But after 10 p.m., maybe the rules are different on the USA Network. Maybe they can get a little bit of blood going. Because, they clearly tried to be a little bit raunchy. They've got dancing women for some fucking reason.
Half-naked women getting into fights.
Yeah, like they're clearly trying to push that sort of, after dark stuff. And with less superstars than ever before due to the current pandemic, they have less people there to do storylines. So why not condense that to 2 hours, have a couple people that kind of weren't doing much, or give the talent to some gnarly people in NXT that are willing to go a bit harder. You know what I mean? And maybe they can, we've heard that the Undisputed Era were apparently coming up. I think they'd fit in the Underground. I think that'd be awesome. They're like, you've got the Hurt Business in there, you've got these guys, and I think, like watching Kyle O'Reilly and stuff, he goes pretty hard. That'd be, why not?
And then, what are they called? The Forgotten Sons.
Yeah, fuck them. But they're on SmackDown anyway, but they're gone since.
Oh, okay, never mind.
No one cares about them anymore. But that's how I see it. I give it a shot for those that are willing, because what they're essentially doing here is they're trying to demonstrate shoot fighting, right? That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to look like real fucking brawler fighting, which is not. It's clearly scripted. You can see some of the punches don't land hard, whatever, because it's not supposed to. But it's an opportunity to see someone like Dolph do something cool. See the Viking Raiders do something cool. Yeah, but Dash adds as well, the problem with Underground, a lot of the smaller guys utilize the ropes and turnbuckles for their maneuvers, which is what we're not going to see here. So I think that could be a different opportunity here as well. It would be a lot of big dudes to come and get sweaty. That's what it's going to be. And that's why Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Business probably fitted to that. But, even though WWE has enough belts of its own, they don't need any more belts. But if this does become its own little timeline, why not have, consider it once again, AEW, right? They have their 2-hour show, and they have AEW Dark, which is an hour, and it's a bunch of pickup matches to keep stories going. They could do that here. You can have a lot can happen in an hour. And, why not create your own little, create their own little side hustle? They can get, keep people involved, keep people watching till the 3rd hour, or even coming just for the 3rd hour. You know what I mean? Something a bit different. Maybe why not?
Yeah.
Anyway, that does bring us to the end of Raw. Jem, for everyone at home, let us know what you think of Raw Underground. Is this something you guys want to see? Do you think this is going to be handled, dropped? Let us know. What do you think of the episode, Jem?
I think. Overall, I think it was very similar to SmackDown. Just shit sort of thrown together all over the place. It was a bit of a mishmash of just rubbish. There was some good stuff in there, though. There was some really interesting stuff in there. So I'd probably go down the line and give it a single.
I'm in a similar boat. Kurt as well. Once again, I like the idea of Underground. I kind of want to see where it goes. There were some things I didn't care about, and I didn't really feel they really pushed too much story. However, the Dominic stuff was great. The Riot Squad stuff was great. Seeing the Iconics again was great. Actually, fuck it. I changed my mind. It's Kurt and Bar, because just Randy and Drew was solid. I fucking loved it. There's a couple of things in there that I actually really, really enjoyed. And I think, if they do push that into a tight 2 hours, that's going to be a ripper 2 hours. What they're setting up now, compact that down, and it's going to be dope. And then leave the last hour to do all this cooler shit in theory. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Anyways, that does bring... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say they easily had about half an hour content in the Underground alone. So I definitely think it's something they could work.
I think it'd be very cool. That does bring us to the end of the show, of course. Big thank you everyone for joining us. Everyone on live on the YouTube chat. In the Twitch chat. Thank you, Jem, as always.
Always a
This has been our WWE in review. It comes at you every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you want to join that wrestling conversation, you can at our social media. Go to Facebook, Discord, Instagram. All those links are in the down below area. If you want to, you can also watch us record this show live on twitch.tv/thepopculturist. Get in the chat, join the fun. Let us know what you think as it happens. If you want to support the conversation, you can head over to your podcast service of choice. Give us a 5-star rating, written review. Tell your friends, tell your family. If you're on YouTube, give us a bit of a good old Kurt Angle. Like the video, subscribe, leave a comment below. If you want to support us financially, you can. Patreon.com/thepopculturist. And of course, our merchandise store, popculturist.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on it.
Like he's wearing.
Like this one. In fact, which I need to get a smaller one now because there's a whole third
not so big.
There's a whole third extra shirt.
I would fit in there with you.
Yeah, that would be confronting, but we could do that.
100%.
But anyways, until next week, I'm Ryan Betson.
And I'm Joe.
See you then. The Young and the Restless, the Pop Culturist WWE podcast, is fan support over at Patreon at patreon.com/thepopculturist. And we'd like to thank our Patreon producers and our Patreon founders for their kindness, their support, and their generosity. Our Patreon founders: Alpha Ferret, Craig O'Flaherty, David Chataway, Jesse Stevenson, and Jacob Garner. And our Patreon producers: AJ Abatomi, Damian Holdies, Kyle Dunn, Lee Wintershoven, Nathan Massetti, Paul James, Pure Mongrel, and Sean Levitt.